Okay, gang, today I'm going to talk about cold email lead generation specifically. And I'm going to kind of clue you in to the secret of making this work is really striking out cold altogether, right? So even though to some degree these will be cold, unknown to you, maybe you're introducing yourself for the first time, but we're going to do everything in our power to make this a warm email outreach. And I'm going to kind of take you through how I build this process. So unlike your kind of typical cold email tutorial, I don't think when you're starting this, you need to kind of go down the route of registering a bunch of domains, setting up instantly, and having kind of this just like carpet bombing type approach to cold email outreach. As you scale, there may be reasons for more sophisticated emailing systems, but as an early stage startup or a founder, or just as a go-to-market strategy for your B2B marketing, this particular approach is going to serve you very well. I personally do over $1.5 million in new revenue using a very similar system to this. So it does not, and that's just as an individual salesperson, right? So this can be really effective, again, depending on who you are, right? Founder, early stage startup, just initially kind of creating the format for your sales team, or maybe you're actually doing B2B sales and you're an individual contributor. You can use this system just as effectively. So let me take you through kind of what we got here. Like I said, this is where most email lead generation type videos and tutorials and courses will concentrate. And that is all about sort of building that email outreach and sales funnel. But I like to back this all the way back to creating some form of marketing to build awareness around me as a personal brand, as a salesperson, or like I said, a founder, early stage startup. I want to create some familiarity, some awareness of what I'm doing, ideally before I start my email outreach. And I want it to be very specific to these individuals. I want to target down to the individual level if I can. You may have previously seen a video, have kind of a larger lead generation for beginners. In order to do some of this, it'd probably be interesting, and I'll link up here to watch this video to think about how you actually sort of build the campaigns and the content that are going to be necessary in, like I said, softening the battlefield, so to speak, for your email outreach. All right, so let's kind of go through this step by step. First and simplest is just LinkedIn marketing. And when I say LinkedIn marketing, again, a little bit related to this, I've got some sort of idea that I'm trying to sell, particularly if I'm a startup or any sort of B2B marketing. For the most part, you're introducing an idea into the marketplace that is either a different way of doing things or a replacement or, again, a variety of, you're introducing something new. You're asking someone to make a change for a value proposition, right? For something that will make it better. And so as a process, you need to kind of build up this ideation, this system of building ideas and refining that message and that positioning and that value proposition. And there's a whole system for just doing that. But we're going to assume here for a moment that we've got that ideation, we've got that content engine, that content operating system working. And LinkedIn is the first place we want to start for most B2B marketing, for most B2B cold lead generation, email generation. What we're going to do here is we're just going to do our best to create and publish daily. So again, bite-sized pieces of content. It can be video. LinkedIn is obviously moving down the video route. So they've got, some of us have already seen this kind of TikTok style or YouTube short style of video interaction. So if you just kind of swipe into a video, you can continue to just scroll through videos. And so video is going to become more and more important to that, but you can simply start with post and images and those sorts of things. Try to make it creative, try to make it helpful. You want to convey the value proposition. I often talk about content as being kind of that MVP, that minimal viable product for whatever product and service that you're building, because you can test that as a piece of content with zero to no investment. and see if that's going to resonate and if people will interact with you, if they will follow you, if they will engage with you, if they'll give you their email and those sorts of things. So that's what you're doing here. But as you're putting this stuff in your feed, most of your network, and all of us have, if you've been on LinkedIn for any amount of time, you actually have a follower base. You have people that are in your network and following you, and it's probably pretty significant. So just by you starting to feed content into that system, those people will become aware of you. And by virtue of how we network, a lot of those people are probably your ICP. So that's going to jumpstart your whole marketing process, right? Is just start picking up your activity and introducing some valuable content into that system. This is our whole goal, right? Here is to warm up this audience and to create a sizable audience. So people that are following you, people that are aware of you, people who are committed to you, people who are starting to trust you. And so this is one component of building out that audience. And then ultimately, that's what we're going to target, not just cold emails, right? We're going to target our audience that we've developed. So list building is still an essential part of this, right? So when we're list building, the other component is LinkedIn Sales Navigator marketing. And so what we're doing in this particular case is we're going into LinkedIn Sales Navigator. If you don't have an account, you should definitely get one. This allows you to kind of go behind the scenes in LinkedIn and start to build list by very simply taking whatever your ideal client profile or ideal client avatar, you've probably written that up, but you can go into there and you can build a search with all of these different sort of drop-down list where you can literally replicate and create a dynamic database query into LinkedIn's database for exactly the people you want to talk to. So all of those characteristics you've defined within your ICP document, you should be able to translate those into this saved search. And then from there, you can build a couple of different lists. I suggest that you do this on a quarterly basis because that saved search itself that you just built will continue to refresh. As people move in and out of roles or in and out of companies, they'll come in and out of your list. They may or may not be qualified because their characteristics of what they do. And that's a good thing. So you have essentially an endless list of targets. And then from that, you can build a list for your quarter, the people that you want to target, something, again, more defined, more sort of manageable. You could build that into a quarterly list of leads, which are individuals, and you can also create an account list, which is a list of companies or logos that you're going after. And the combination of that will create internal to LinkedIn Sales Navigator a curated feed of just ICPs, which is even more powerful kind of than just sort of your normal LinkedIn feed, because it's very specific for who you're going after and ultimately the people that you're going to email. So this becomes super important. Once you have those lists, once you have that saved search, you're going to want to create a follow campaign, which means you're going to go down through that saved list. And as you identify people that you want to target or companies that you want to target, you want to follow those individuals, you want to follow those companies. And when you do that, they'll actually see that you're engaging with them. So that'll be the first impression, right? They're going to see, hey, Bill Rice, he's a CRO type. He does strategy. So they're going to see all of that when I follow them. And that's going to come up in there. Hey, these people viewed your profile. And then that's going to get you a click. They're going to take a look at everything that you're doing in your LinkedIn profile. And that's going to start that familiarity, right? That's your first impression. We're trying to get 5, 6, 7 of these, right? The next thing that you want to do is you also want to introduce these folks into a connection campaign. And a connection campaign is just that. I don't use InMail or any of that sort of thing. I just try to connect with the people that seem to be the closest to my ICPs. And I just simply reach out. I have a 2-message script. The first one is just basically, and I think of all of this through the lens of kind of, working the floor at a conference, right? So my first message is just simply talking to them. hey, kind of this thing's going on in the market or whatever. We think it would be, it's a good time to connect, right? You're trying to give them some reason to think about connecting. And then the other thing that I do, and I could share this script, I've got it in some other videos. But the second part of that script, which is really powerful, is there's no sales pitch to follow this connection, right? So I'm going to make a promise that I'm not going to pitch them. And then, of course, we need to make sure that we actually honor that promise, right? That I don't turn around and pitch them on the next, as soon as they connect, the very next message. And then the next message, I truly do an introduction. So that second message, and I only do 2 messages. After that, I stop. But after that, I introduce myself. I've got like 5 bullet points. This is who I am. I try to put some stuff in there that's a little bit interesting or would spark conversation. And then once that message goes out, usually it will start an engaged conversation. A lot of times you'll be surprised how many will give me a bulleted list back of kind of their comparables, which is super interesting. And then within there, that's when I try to do the personalization, try to have a personal conversation with them. I don't try to do that before. You can dive into each one of the LinkedIn profiles and try to find something interesting, but it almost seems disingenuous because a lot of times I'll get those messages and they'll pick out one thing, and usually it's kind of arbitrary. Maybe they even got it out of context, and so it comes off a little bit weird. So I don't try to personalize too much in those first 2 messages, but once I get the reply, they're going to give me all kinds of stuff to personalize with, right? Because I'm going to start a conversation, which is really important. I put a little note here that I like to use a virtual assistant to help me scale this process. I still only do about 20 a day, so I'm not trying to do hundreds or thousands of these. I'm trying to make it manageable because, and I think this is really important, I personally respond to every reply. So my virtual assistant just helps me scale the mechanical process of getting the messages out and the targeting that I've set up. But I do all of the interaction. I personally engage in that conversation and that discussion, and that's worked really well with for me. And then over time, because you're having that discussion, you sort of come together, and through that discussion, oftentimes you'll come together and sort of mutually decide to schedule an appointment, right? To actually connect and have a phone call. And so that's kind of neat. I don't ever have to ask for a phone call. I don't ever have to ask for a meeting. I never have to pitch. When we come to a meeting, which I get a lot of meetings out of that, it's usually that person on the other end saying, hey, it might be interesting for us to connect. So again, all of this is contributing to building that audience. Now, this list that I was referring to that I built out in Sales Navigator, I'm going to take this list and I'm going to move it over. It's going to be the core of my ICP list, right? And the core of my email outreach. So while or slightly after I've done this, then I want to introduce them into my email outreach campaign. A couple components that are really important. This is what a lot of people talk about, building that list, and sometimes they'll just dive into Apollo and do all their searches there. I like to actually do Sales Navigator and then take that list, go into Apollo or Rocket Reach, and then get the emails for the people that I've already identified. I don't often do my targeting inside of Apollo or Rocket Reach. I do that inside of Sales Navigator. So there's a couple other little components in here that are important that I like to reinforce. One, become an expert in your CRM, whatever one you choose to use, and don't churn through CRMs. They're really very similar, and if they aren't today, they will in the future. If you see some hot feature that you want, guarantee you it'll come along into yours. What happens though when you're churning through CRMs is you're really essentially just losing the integrity of your database, right? Because you're moving lists and it's not structured the same. Maybe it's not segmented, and you're exporting, and so that usually jacks things up. You get some records all messed up. And then the other thing that's really obvious is from your ICP's perspective, all of those sequences get there's no consistency or congruency between those. It's like we were on a sequence, we're having sort of a conversation that you built out an automation that made a ton of sense. All of a sudden you switch to another system, and then you got to restart those sequences. So it gives a really choppy, weird experience. So A couple suggestions. A lot of my clients use HubSpot. I personally use Close. I've always enjoyed that. That's another good B2B. You can do a lot of kind of interesting things there. HubSpot is probably more for those who are focused on content marketing and want to integrate that as part of the sales process and are doing more inbound type of leads. Close is probably better situated for those who are focusing more on outreach, right? So in this context, Close would probably be more effective, whereas HubSpot, you're building content and you're using that to kind of drive inbound. So it's a little bit more closer. This is a little bit closer to marketing automation probably than true CRM. The other piece that you're going to need is something to actually get the emails from, right? So Apollo's one of the leaders in this space for B2B. Rocket Reach, I actually like to use because depending on who you're targeting, sometimes these have a little bit better database one way or another. And then again, this is more for scale because if you get this initially, you could probably end up sort of doing too much. And I like to always start small and kind of see how it works. And then I want to scale up from there. Instantly is super powerful. And so all of a sudden you could be emailing thousands of people a day. And I think often scaling that early can get you into a lot of trouble. So just be careful with Instantly. Again, a great tool, gives you a lot of power, but you have to kind of use it carefully. Ultimately, as you're doing this, you're actually targeting this audience, right? Like we mentioned before, we're targeting the same audience. So as these emails land in inboxes, hopefully these people have seen enough from you that this is actually maybe the third or fourth impression that they've seen from you. Maybe even even more have been done in this process because maybe at this point they're following you and they kind of see you every single day, right? So you've got so many impressions built up. So ideally, that's what you're looking for, right? Or you're hoping for is to build up a bunch of impressions before that first email comes out. And then, of course, I see a lot of people make this mistake. If I'm sending out emails, I want to ultimately have some sort of call to action. Replies are nice, but I'm not necessarily always playing for the reply. I want to get them to my website. I want them to go deeper in understanding the product or service. I want them to start to buy into my philosophy. So this is where content really comes into these rabbit trails and rabbit holes that I talk about all the time. I want them to consume a little bit of content, right? It helps me pre-sell the product and service because these folks are starting to buy into my approach, and that way, if they do react to one of my call to actions when I drive them from email to a landing page, in particular, or maybe to a larger website, when they actually react to this call to action, then I'm halfway there, right? They bought into the philosophy, they bought into the approach, or they're very, very curious. So that's going to induce a high intent, probably inbound lead, which sometimes confuses people, right? I mean, we're going outbound. And so this is outbound lead generation, if you will. But to some degree, it's contributing to inbound lead generation. And once you get this going, this really is a flywheel. And you're just constantly sort of going around this circle, reinforcing everything around this audience. And this, I can't highlight this enough. This is what we want to do. We want to build an audience full of ICPs, and then we want to work that. We don't want to work just a cold list of ICPs. That is just so much harder than kind of doing this exercise. Come down here. A lot of you will already have a WordPress website, and that's fine. Just take a little bit of a deep dive into that to make sure it's optimized for lead generation, meaning that on those landing page, you have a nice progressive form that's capturing that lead. You have your phone number. If you're early stage or a solo founder or a small team, you might want to start with something like Gumroad or ConvertKit or even Substack. And so essentially those are a mechanism to deliver something of value, like a lead magnet, in exchange for an email address. And so that kind of starts that process of acquisition and creating leads and capturing leads. All of those systems will allow you to set up a lead form to do a capture. And so maybe early on, that's just capturing an email and then nurturing that with a newsletter. Later, it'll be an actual lead, right, with some extra information in there. Feed that directly into your CRM and work against that. So this is my system for cold, or really not so cold, email outreach and cold email lead generation. And so hopefully that will help you make your cold email lead generation so much more effective. Hey, if you've enjoyed this, I would love for you to subscribe, like and follow, and that will just help this channel grow and get it exposed to more and more people like you. And again, hope this gave you some value today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.